so much as your attributes. If your attributes are more male than you are male, or at least that's how you're relating. Oh man, that almost sounds like a transgender thing. If your attributes are all male, then you are male. If your attributes, but oof, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like women receive and they multiply and manifest. I think, men and masculinity, I think, is manifested in and through women, right? And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's an integral part of existence of mankind and probably all existence itself. Because what if there's no receptor for the driving force for the generation, then what good is the generation? Like, what good is building a house if there's no one to make a home of it, right? Like, so it's like, but still there is that kind of order, and I don't know. I try to get this stuff down because I don't know, man. Sometimes it just seems like I don't know. Am I just like a woman hater? Am I just putting them down? Like I'm trying so hard to clarify these things about myself and about these beliefs, and I've always thought that my views on women were beautiful and good, and that I love them more than I think most people or many people because how can you truly love something if you deny part of its nature, right? Like you have to really accept the nature. Like to love yourself, you have to accept yourself, right? You have to accept your nature. And to really love women or men, you have to fully accept their nature. And like just look in the world today, what do we see? We see so much division. The men and women are at each other's throats seemingly more than ever before. And that's a horrible thing. It's awful. And and I would have to think that part of if not the driving reason behind that would be that we're not understanding, we're not seeing and accepting their selves, women's selves for who they are, for what they are, and men's selves for who and what they are. How can you love them? How can you truly love them if you won't accept them, who they are? You know, um, and there's a lot of overlap from individual to individual, and between the two sexes, there's a lot of overlap and everything. Um, I've been learning that the overlap is a lot more than I perhaps thought. Not that I didn't really think that there was overlap, it it's been highlighted a lot more lately in discourse, um, because I've spent a lot of my life, and I think in Christianity, a lot of that teaching is about the distinction between them, and and enhancing or driving that distinction. And I don't know. So this is interesting. So because I've been talking so much about like narcissism and then the fracture of self and the fracture of society, fracture of mankind, and now I've even gotten into the topic of like fracture uh, from God, right? Of creation from God and the division. And it's like, and that seems to have mostly been framed as that it's a bad thing, that the fracture is a bad thing. I mean, narcissism is bad and fracture. But then, so I have to try to understand this and see how it can fit together. Then the division between women and men. Um, so I don't know. It's like things have to be in their like this is a big part of how I was taught in the Christian teachings that I was raised with was that like things should be in their proper appropriate place, right? Like something out of place is not useful. It's not good. Um, like like a silly funny example is like having I don't know like your eyeball on the sole of your foot. It's still an eyeball, and an eyeball is incredibly useful. But having it on the sole of your foot that's not good. That's not very useful, right? That's not that's far inferior. So it doesn't mean the eyeball is bad. We need the eyeball. We want the eyeball, but we want it in its proper place, right? We want it in the appropriate place, and to fully appreciate it and fully utilize it, and for it to manifest its full glory, it needs to be in its proper place. And this is a huge part of teaching that I experienced in the church uh, that I was going to, and in the Christianity I was taught, was that, and this is about men and women and people, that everyone should be in their appropriate place. And this has always seemed like a good thing to me. So now I gotta try to understand the distinctions and the placements, the synthesis between all these fractures, which are bad, seem to be bad, and then the division, which seems to be good. So it's like, how does that work? Hmm. I mean, so you things need to be in their place, right? But you don't. It's like it's like your feet. Your feet are like smelly. They're sweaty. They're smelly. They're dirty. They're walking around all over. So you could say, oh, those sweaty, smelly, dirty feet with calluses and gnarly looking toes. Um, they're nasty. They're awful. I don't want them. Throw them out. They're worthless. They're garbage, right? They're low. They're beneath me. I'm the brain, or I'm the arm, or whatever. I'm far superior. And that would be like obviously a foolish and evil and wrong way to look at it. And so it's like, if you look at women like that and say, oh, well, women are weaker in this area, or dependent in this area, or whatever it is, therefore they're garbage, they're trash, I don't need them, I don't want them. Well, isn't that just like doing that with your feet? But the point is, with the feet here, yeah, the feet have those stinky, sweaty, dirty characteristics, but that's because they um, obviously are super crucial, is that we walk around on them. And what would we do without feet? Just because they're stinky and dirty, does that mean we want to get rid of them, or that they're worthless? No, obviously not, right? So I love using simple examples, because it's like a parallel way to understand something more, seemingly more complex, with something very apparent. Um, well, I think that's how you teach, anyways, right? Obviously, but it's one way. So if a woman is weaker than a man in certain ways, I'm not saying in every way, um, does that mean she's no good, or of no value, or worthless, or you treat her like dirt? Absolutely not. And I don't think Christianity teaches that. Although there are some, there does seem to be, maybe some areas where it goes too far, perhaps goes too far, or um, things like that. So I'm not going to say it's perfect. And obviously, people who teach Christianity or any other religion or any other teaching, it's subject to the person who's teaching it, right? The filter that it gets, both in the Bible, whether it's you know that it's been altered over time, and the translation and all those types of things. So in that source material itself, being having some compromises, and then in the human beings who are then preaching it and disseminating it, they have compromises. So it runs so deep like that, um, and from one church to the next, and things like that. You get different flavors, whether a little better, stronger, or weaker on different subjects in different areas. Um, the church I was raised in was very strong on these distinctions, and it wasn't all just about women. It's also about men, that the man should be hardworking, and that he should um, love his wife as Christ loved the church. Therefore, meaning that Christ sacrificed himself for the church, right? And so that the man should sacrifice himself. So if that sounds like misogynistic to people, I don't see why, right? Because they're trying to teach people to be in their proper place, in proper order, for your own good and your own benefit, and for the benefit of all, right? Um, and and if that means being subservient, that a woman is in her proper place, being subservient to her husband, if that's the proper place and that benefits her, him, the children, and everybody, then that's a good thing. And it's not, and it wouldn't be misogynistic, would it? It would just be what it is, just the truth, just the reality. So I'm not saying those things are what they are. I'm saying I'm just fleshing out the ideas. But that's what I was taught, and I believe that's what the Bible says clearly. And I'm sure people can argue this stuff, but that you should love your wife as Christ loved the church, and that he gave up his own body to the cross, to a brutal death, right? He sacrificed himself willingly for others, for the church. And the church is represented as female in the teaching. So they're saying that the man, the husband, should do everything in his power. He should give his life for his wife. But that doesn't mean that she rules over him, right? Just because you're giving your life for her, she does not therefore become your ruler and dictator, right? So everything in their proper place. Um, if I right, so the man, usually it's that he's protecting her, he's building the home, he's working hard to provide everything he can, to manifest her, because that's what men love. That's what men love. Like, let's be honest here. Any, a healthy man, you know, um, most healthy man, whatever. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of exceptions and all this crap, but I think a healthy, good man, um, loves women, and but what we want, I think, is to manifest women. That's like what we want, because when a man manifests a woman, that manifests him, because it's like, how do I show that I'm strong? How do I prove that I'm strong? Like, by fighting and building and doing this stuff, right? But it's like, what's the ultimate show is to be strong for her, right? Because she's delicate and weaker in that way. And so, going with the bros and being strong amongst them, that's one form of it. That's one form. But like, the ultimate expression is to be to be weak for her, right? The Bible says that there's strength and weakness, and that can seem like such a weird thing to say or whatever, but it's like, I've always thought it's such a beautiful thing, and the more you learn about this stuff, I've always found that it's more profound and true and beautiful, in so many ways. So if a man can weaken himself for a woman, that is strength. That's actually a greater strength, right? So right, so that's why, so men who are like angry with their wives or their partners, or women in general, and this is, see, this is me. I gotta, like, let this stuff go. I have to process. I have these deep, intense emotions, and they're there for a good reason, because I had no father, and he was an alcoholic, and I don't know what influence he had on me directly, because he was in my life a little bit when I was like a baby and whatever, and very, very briefly, maybe a few times when I was a young child, but I don't even really remember it. So I don't know what kind of direct influence he had on me, but his absence has clearly had a massive influence on me, both on me, but also his absence having the effect on my mother and the rest of my family, and that all affects me and all of us as well, right? So it's a massive void and struggle and problem for the whole family, and therefore for me, for each individual. And so I have a lot of emotion and anger and stuff about that. And, you know, if I've been misdirecting that, projecting that, or whatever onto my mother or women, too much in my life, then that's something I need to work on and heal, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to wrongly, you know, be angry at women. I don't want that. I want to refocus here. I want to love women. They're so beautiful. They're so wonderful. What would life be, right? It's just like Adam in the garden, and God's like, Adam, I guess what the idea is that he saw the other animals and that they had partners. And Adam's like, dang, the lion's got the lioness and the giraffe's got the giraffess and whatever, and I got nobody. Like, this is depressing. Like, I have a beautiful garden and I'm walking and talking with God, and that's like, so there's all this wonder, but yet still, essentially, you could say he was, getting depressed, saying, like, well, I got nobody for me. I'm alone. And so he made him a woman. And so it's like, this is something that I was taught so much about Christianity, about the Bible and stuff, is that how is it that God manifested the church, which represents a woman, female, to express his attributes, that he's a protector, he's a God who protects, a God who defends and provides and creates, beauty and strength and all these things. But how does that get expressed? By just being a spirit and having no creation? No, there would be no one to witness his creation and no one to witness him and his attributes. And um and so therefore he made the creation to, in the form of a female, to express his attributes. Because what is he? He's nothing without her, right? Oh, he's not. It's not that he's nothing. In a way, you could say he's nothing, but it's just that it's not expressed and it's not appreciated or valued, and it doesn't take form, it doesn't take shape, and no one's benefiting from it. So, so as I always say, you apply things on the greater scale to the little lower scale. So if God does that, and then man's made in God's image, which perhaps my special lady might argue, and people might argue, and that's fine. People argue everything, even the most basic of truths. I think people argue, and I like to analyze the most basic of truths too. That's important, that's good. But like, so if God does that and he is expressed, his glory and everything, through a woman, through a female, through church, through his creation or whatever, um, then on the smaller scale, men also do that. Like, a man of himself, he possesses inherently, strength and virility and drive and, you know, these qualities. And he can express some of them amongst himself and with other men, right? Sure. But the full expression, um, and fulfillment is through his wife, through women. And you know, it's just like, well, everyone knows that the man who's like boisterous and loud and obnoxious, and acting tough, is usually the least tough guy. He's actually, both mentally and even physically. Um, I mean, he might be strong physically, but that weakness that he's trying to exude as toughness, um, it's because of a weakness, and that will affect his physical strength as well. Um, so he's like the weaker man, right? And everyone knows that. And so, like, how's the ultimate expression of your strength? It's like, it's being gentle and sweet and soft, and not with other men, like they're men, they, I don't know, like, but with a woman. And so it's that's the fulfillment of man, um the expression of his attributes of being a protector, a provider, all these things, to someone who needs those things. So you say, okay, if a woman needs a man and she's dependent on him and stuff, that doesn't make her a lesser human being, a lesser soul before God, and a lesser person in mankind. She's we're nothing without women, and I've always felt this way, and I've always talked like this. So yes, I have some anger and I have some things to work through and whatever, but and I have to make sure I get all this stuff sorted out. Um, and I have to sort myself out. I guess I guess when I'm beating on women proverbially, I guess it's kind of like the boisterous man who's acting tough, right? Is that what it is? I guess it is, Aaron. See, I gotta talk to myself. Aaron, that's what it is. Like, if you're gonna hammer on to women how they're supposed to act and believe and what position they should be in, I guess it's just a projection because of my own weakness that I'm not being much of a man, right? That's the truth, isn't it? So I'm so focused on what they need to do, um, and I'm like waiting for them to do it so that I can then be a good man or something. They're supposed to do it first, like, or or and I can paint the exact picture of everything wrong that they do or whatever. But it's like, what about all the things I'm failing at, right? Like, so that's the truth. That's the truth, Aaron. I need to stop. I need to get my stuff together. Yeah, I've been so weak, and I know I've thought about this stuff before. I need to just do it. I've been feeling sorry for myself my whole life. It's sickening. It's sickening. Um, so just trying to flesh. I just want to maybe finish this thought. I gotta wrap this video up here soon. I know I. So God manifests the church and people to express His attributes, and then women express men's attributes, and not just those attributes, of strength and protection and provision and stuff like that, and love, but of children, of course, right? Because the man, if he's got seed, he's got the seed in himself. Well, so what, right? Like, how are you going to plant the seed? How's it going to grow? Like, so he plants the seed in a woman and it grows in her, right? So it's just a very literal way that the man is manifested in the woman, and through her he is able to be fulfilled, um and that's crucial and critical and divine and wonderful and amazing. It's delightful, it's beautiful, it's every good thing, um you know the partnership, the union of the man and woman, and what they bring to each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and that's how I've always seen it. That's how I've always talked about it. Um, but I'm being hypocritical. I'm cowardly in ways. I'm just, yeah. I've been a coward. I have to do something more. I have to, you know. It's like, I guess it's just that simple thing of like, you're not supposed to point out the mote in your brother's eye until you first remove the plank that is in your own eye. And for me, it's like I'm pointing out all the motes in the women's eyes. Meanwhile, I got some big planks over here in my own eyes, um, that I have to take care of, that I want to take care of. So where's that distinction? The woman manifests the man. I mean, the Bible says expressly that woman was created for man, um, not the other way around. And does that mean that women are lesser beings or something? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, they're important. Obviously, they're crucial. They're critical. We have nothing without them. So I don't know. It's one of those delicate things of just like there's strength and weakness. So, and there's strength in women of incredible, maternal and emotional and intuitive strength, and daily lifestyle and routine of cleaning and maintaining the home and making things beautiful and bringing joy and beauty into the world. And I think that those things are critical, like critical, because if Adam was essentially depressed without Eve, and I think men are too, for the most part, if not totally. I mean, you can get through life with depression, right? So a man can be like, I don't need a woman, and technically, I suppose you don't. You can get through life and live and die and not have your partner. And you can do that with a lot of things. You can do it without you having your arm or an eye or freaking half your body. So you could say, well, you don't need all that stuff, but that's kind of a weak, that's kind of a weak thing to say, really. Like you do need those things, like to be fully manifested. You need them to live, and like because so what I was saying was like if you live and die without a woman, and you're like, oh, I don't need her, you can do that, but you can live being depressed, right? Does that mean that you really lived? Does that mean that you really didn't need her? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. Um, I think that's a tragedy. I think it's a resentful, you know, place to inhabit, and I think it's a sad one to inhabit. Probably a little hellish. So, um, because to be depressed is basically to die, right? It's like dying without physically dying. So you got nothing. Like, um, okay. I don't want to go. I'm happy for my self therapy session here, or whatever the heck this is. But when I feel like the moments like these, and I feel like okay, and I'm getting it, and I am having like humility, and I'm like, okay, I need to do something like now. I want to cling to it. I want to cling to it. I don't want to like let it go because I go, and then there's barriers in the way, obstacles which can be navigated, but there's obstacles into doing those things. Like I'm like, if I could go right now and just be like, yo, can I come to work? Yep, okay, I'm coming. I would just do that like right now. But then there's all these obstacles. I'm like, I don't know who to call and where to go and what job will take me, and there's all that process, right? So you have to really mean it. It can't just be so easy. But um so I don't know, have I said something evil and wrong? If women are weaker, the weaker vessel, strength and weakness, you know, manifestation of the man and the glory through the woman. If she was made for him, but and she's part of him. If a man puts down a woman and thinks less of her, he thinks nothing of himself either. Like he's nobody, right? Because she's part of him. How can you how can you put down women when they're part of us? They're part of me, you know? She's part of me, and I shouldn't be looking at her failures or weaknesses. I should be doing everything I can to shore them up, to help with those things. To If I'm the strong one who's able to fight and defend and build, and deal with you know fighting and abuse or whatever, then I should take it so that she doesn't have to, right? So instead of pointing out her weaknesses and stuff, I should be doing something about it. I should be doing something about it. I should. I guess that would be loving women instead of loving myself. I suppose that's what I do. I love myself. I love myself. And Yeah, that is it, isn't it? Yeah, selfish. I love myself instead of, because if I really loved her, if I really loved her, I would do those things for her. Not just stand there saying I love you and stand there saying these are all the things I want to do for you and these are all the things you deserve. But it's like, well, how come I'm not doing it? Like I love myself. I just love myself. And in some way I hate myself because I guess the real me knows that I'm a coward and that I'm a selfish narcissist who loves himself and is unfairly and unlovingly putting down women, putting them in their place, or thinking I am, or whatever, like projecting off my own weakness about what they do instead of me really loving them and taking care of them. That's the truth, isn't it? I need to like write this stuff down. I don't want to forget. I don't want to regress into my stupid ways of thinking. They aren't my ways. They're not mine. I don't want them. I need to cling to this and act on it, and I need to care for her. And that shows that I love her. That's the proof. The proof in the pudding. They teach this a lot in Christianity and in where I was raised, that faith, it's a scripture that faith without substance is dead. Um, Faith without works is dead. So you can profess how much you believe all you want, but if there's no works to show it, then what's the faith? It's nothing. It's dead. It's useless, worthless. You're a hollow. You're you're just a talker. You just talk, right? The Bible says that you become as a sounding cymbal. Ting 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 ting, a little tinkling brass, You're making a sound, you're making a little sound, a nice little tinkle, but there's no substance, there's nothing there, and that's what you are. And maybe is that why I hate myself? Is that why I loathe myself? Because of my weakness, because of my own weakness, which I'm aware of on some level. I mean, I know it consciously too, but I've always known it on some level that I've been projecting onto women, and that I should be furious. I should be furious with my dad. I should be furious with my dad. I don't know how to bring out that anger and to put it in its rightful place. I never, I guess, really had the opportunity. I mean, I did, and I never took it, to confront him and to tell him how I feel and maybe to slug him or something, and and express